November the 8th marks Indigenous Veterans Day in Canada. Today, we take the time to reflect on the contributions of the approximate 12,000 First Nations, Métis, and Inuit soldiers who have served in Canada's military since Confederation in 1867. And we remember the more than 500 First Nations, Métis, and Inuit soldiers who made the ultimate sacrifice and didn't make it home. The exact numbers of Indigenous soldiers to have served are approximate because for most of the 20th century, the Canadian government only tracked soldiers who had Indigenous status. Non-status, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit soldiers were non-identified in their enlistment paperwork or files as Indigenous. In fact, many Indigenous soldiers who wanted to enlist had to give up their status in order to do so. Sergeant Tom Eagle of the Northwest Territories was one of those soldiers. He gave up his status when he enlisted in 1951 and spent the rest of his life trying to get it back. In spite of this discrimination and the challenges of serving in a force that spoke a different language and had a different organizational structure than they were used to, over 4,000 Indigenous soldiers served in World War I. They were known for their prowess as scouts and snipers. Over 3,000 Indigenous soldiers served in World War II, where they were, again, scouts and snipers. But they also became code talkers, tasked with the important job of translating sensitive messages into Indigenous languages to thwart the Germans. Indigenous soldiers answered the call again during the Korean, First Gulf, and Afghanistan wars, and they have taken part in peacekeeping missions around the world. The Canadian Rangers here in the north monitor coastlines and assist in search and rescue operations.
The purpose of this day was started in Winnipeg in 1994 when Indigenous members weren't allowed to take part in various ceremonies and at the National War Memorial in Ottawa. So since then, Indigenous veterans have been trying to create awareness, letting people know that there was still inequities in modern times, and slowly over time we're evolving to improve those situations so they don't happen again. So today is a very good opportunity for us to again remind Canadians that Aboriginal veterans did serve with honor and distinction, and as well we have to remember and remind ourselves that even in this great country, Indigenous veterans were not treated fairly in the past. So we need to always remember that and not forget that. Hopefully there will be a time in 10 years' time where we don't have to focus on this kind of day, but for now, until everything gets resolved, it's a good day to remember that.
Our veterans, the Indigenous people, went over and fought for Canada for the freedom, and we honor them, and we pray for their souls and the families, and we thank them from the bottom of our heart so that we can have today for what it is today, for the love of our people, love of our country, and our love of our veterans. Truly we are blessed and humble. So in my prayers I've asked if you would say a few words of thanking all our veterans, and that today we're truly grateful for what they have sacrificed so that we can have what we have here in Canada.